I'm Melissa from the Catholic Garden. Thank you for joining me on our first ever Mary Garden Grow Along. For this Grow Along, I have chosen 4 easy to grow hardy annuals. Scabiosa, which is Our Lady's Pincushion, Nigella, or Love in the Mist, also called Our Lady in the Shade, Snapdragons, called Infant Jesus' Shoes, Cornflower or Bachelor Buttons, which are known as Mary's Crown. A little about winter sowing. Check your growing zone. Here in my zone, 8B, we are on the tail end of the winter sowing season, and we will be moving into spring sowing soon. In zones 1 through 7, the colder regions, you can winter sow from January to April. I love winter sowing because it requires so few supplies, kids can help, and it really gets us a chance to get outside and then put our hands in the dirt. Essentially, we're making milk jugs into little mini greenhouses. The following supplies are required for our grow along. Empty gallon milk jugs. You could also use a plastic containers that you find that have a clear lid that can fit 4 inches of soil would work as well. Potting soil or mix. Utility scissors or blade. Plant labels. I just get the cheap ones off Amazon. You could also use popsicle sticks. A permanent marker. Clear poly or duct tape, and a spray bottle for watering. Now let's get started. So first we're going to get our milk jugs ready for planting, and we need to poke holes in the bottom. I'd say about 4 to 6 holes. I'm doing it with a screwdriver here, probably not the safest way to do it. You can do it with a drill. I've even heard of people using a hot glue gun. And then next, you're going to want to cut around your milk jug from about 4 inches from the bottom. Cut all around, but I would leave about 1 to 2 inch space. Don't cut all the way through. Leave a 1 to 2 inch space at the handle so you can use that as a hinge to open and shut your milk jug. Next, we are going to be filling our milk jugs with 4 inches of soil approximately. And it's so easy. You just fill them up, not much to it. And then when you got them all full, you just gently tap down the soil a little bit. I wouldn't press it too much. You don't want it compact. And I didn't do this with mine, but if you do have problems with slugs in your area, I have heard people put coffee filters to line the bottom of the container to prevent slugs from getting inside your milk jug. So if you have slugs, that might be something to do. Okay, next we are going to start labeling our milk jugs, and obviously you're going to be labeling with whatever seed you're going to be putting in the jug. You're going to label that seed. So I'm doing Scabiosa right now. I'm using what's called a garden marker, and they sell this on Amazon. It's UV resistant, but I'm telling you what, you need to make sure that your milk jug is totally dry, because I tried writing with it and it did not work. I had to use a permanent marker at that point. So make sure that you completely dry the outside of your milk jug and then write with a permanent marker. And you can also write on the bottom of the milk jug too. We are going to be putting plant labels inside as well. So our first seed is Scabiosa. There's nothing much to this one. I would just surface sow. That means just placing the seed on top of the soil, and then you're going to lightly tamp down on it. Don't press too hard or you will damage the seed. Just lightly tap down on it. And I seed very sparingly. I'm not going to dump my whole envelope of seed on the soil. And same with the corn flour. With this one, same thing. Surface sow. Do not cover with any dirt. Just leave it on the top, lightly tamp it down. And now we have snapdragons, which are very, very tiny seed. Also, seed sparingly. These are so small, it's going to be hard not to. I mean, it's like almost like little pepper flakes. Just spread the seed, and as well, you don't have to cover this with soil as well. Just lightly tamp it down. And our next seed is Nigella. This is going to take a little bit extra care. Nigella likes to be covered. So when you spread the seed, you're going to put a little bit. I mixed seed with this. So I am doing 2 different Nigella and I mixed them. I didn't care. So just take the seed and pour it on top sparingly. And then put another tiny blanket of soil. I just take a little bit of soil and just spread it over it very lightly. And then depending on my soil was pretty damp, so I just misted them. You could pour a little bit more water depending on what your soil feels like, but you want it to be a little bit damp, not too moist. I just use a spray bottle. It's worked perfectly fine for me, but if you think that your soil needs a little bit extra water, maybe you should add more water to that. Now I'm going to write my labels for the inside, and I usually use plastic, really cheap plant markers I get off Amazon, and I use a pencil because the pencil does not wear out, and then I reuse them again for the next growing season. It's very simple. I just erase it and start again the next year. And just place those inside because you don't want to lose track of what you have in there. I also included the Marion name on these plant labels. Next, we're going to duct tape around the milk jugs. Just make sure that you wipe down again the surface of the milk jugs to make sure there's no water or your tape will not stick. I usually do this in 2 layers. I cut one piece and then cut another. It's much easier than wrapping the whole tape around the milk jug. Then carefully place your jugs on a tray to move. If you're going to move them, place them on a tray and hold them from the bottom. It is so easy to rip these apart if you carry it by the top. And then just gently place your milk jugs in a sunny location. It's as easy as that. Make sure you don't, it's not in a place where kids can kick them or maybe wind will blow them. Just find the sunniest spot in your yard and put them out. And I would check your milk jug in a couple weeks just to see how they're doing water-wise. And if they do need some water, spray them gently from the top. I would check every week thereafter to make sure your seedlings are getting plenty of water. When the weather warms, typically late March through May, it is time to transplant your seedlings into your garden bed or container. Carefully harden off your seedlings over a series of days. Removing the lid, start by putting your container in an area that receives dappled sunlight and work up to full sun over a week. This allows your seedlings to acclimate to changing weather. And then after about a week, your plants will be ready to go out into your Mary garden. And don't worry if you missed this grow along or your seeds didn't grow for some reason or another. We'll have another chance to grow some half-hardy annuals starting, I think, late March, early April. We're going to be growing zinnias, cosmos, and sunflowers. Those are some of my very favorites in the garden. So I hope you'll join me then.